I feel half naked, says Paradox. Quite a few comments here. Social media has done a disservice when it comes to endless attention seeking. Well, yeah, it has. It has. But I think women have always been this way. Actually, I think social media has made certain things worse, but I think women have actually always kind of liked this kind of that bad boy character, that gallivanting rogue sort of person. They've always been more attracted to that, and you see this if you watch old movies and you read old books and things like that. This is documented a lot. So men also, I Feel Naked says, men also want entertainment, but they would rather choose a video game than a drama queen. Yeah, so I think it's a bit different for men. So as I said before, I think men are much more straightforward, right? We kind of just want, yeah, she's hot, box ticked. You know, she's chill, box ticked. Maybe she cooks, okay, box ticked. That's it, right? It's for most guys, it's pretty straightforward. Now, actually, that's not the entire story. I actually like women who are a little bit spicy, you know. I don't want somebody who's like a man boss, like a boss babe who's super dominant and super domineering and all that. I don't want that. But I do like women who've got a bit of spirit, right? And we can have a good vibe, we can have a good bit of banter. That's pretty cool, okay? To a point. But when we're talking about drama, no, I certainly don't want somebody who is doing very toxic things and fuck you, because I just haven't got time. Like, I just haven't got time for that nonsense. Back in the day, to be honest, that maybe I did engage with that a couple of times, but that was because at that point I didn't have options, or I didn't feel that I had options. I didn't know anything about this dating stuff. You know, my social skills weren't great. Plus, I didn't have a lot of the external value either. So, you know, I didn't have a lot of choice. So I was in a relationship early on where this girl, you know, she cheated on me a few times. I mean, I cheated on her as well, actually, but she cheated on me. And, you know, I kept taking her back. I mean, the classic mistakes that you make. And I had a couple of things like that where you could say she was playing more like the male drama role. And I was sort of, you know, not only enabling that, but also, you know, drawn back to her. In spite of or because of that. But I mean, that was a long time ago, guys. I mean, that we're talking a long time ago. That was a couple of decades ago. I mean, these days, absolutely not. These days, if she's doing that, she's out the door. Because one, I'm going to protect my own sanity and my own mental and emotional well-being. And two, I just haven't got the time for that bullshit. Do you know what I mean? Like, I simply haven't got the time to engage with somebody who is going to be doing that kind of stuff. And, you know, I've got other options, and to be honest, I'd rather just be single than to be engaging with that. So, you know, we all make these mistakes, but I think in general, I think guys are certainly not drawn to drama in the way that women are, and certainly high-value guys. And remember, you know, I know a bunch of high-value guys. We coach them. I know people in this industry who are, you know, multi-millionaires who have very high standards, you know, guys in peak physical condition. I know a whole bunch of these guys. I know what they want, and they certainly don't want women who are causing drama. In that way. But women do seem to want it. And when people on here are saying, oh, well, only low quality women, what do you really mean by that? What do you actually mean by low quality women? Because remember, from the male point of view, what is quality anyway? Well, she's hot. And I know plenty of extremely attractive younger women in their early 20s who lap this stuff up. Are they high quality women? Well, it depends what your definition is. But if your definition is she's hot, which, let's face it, ultimately is what guys are looking for, then yeah, they are high quality women. Again, I think people are very binary on here. There's this distinction, oh, she's a club thought or she's like a good girl. And it's not fucking like that, man. It's not. It's much more nuanced than that, you know? I know girls who, they go to the club, they do all this kind of stuff. And they also sit at home and they bake and you know, it's people are not this one or the other, okay? So you've got to think a bit when you're saying these things, because it doesn't really tally with reality. War brides, the fittest women that have survived were women who quickly adapted to drama and chaos of the time. That's an interesting theory. That's an interesting theory. So when Rollo talks about war brides, what he's talking about is more the way that women can move on very quickly from a relationship. And we often observed this, how women will get over a breakup much more quickly. They'll move on to the next dude, and she's forgotten about you, and the guy's still in his pants in his room, weeping into his, glass of whiskey or whatever. That phenomenon is often associated with this war bride concept, which is basically that women evolutionarily had to become adept at moving on very quickly from their former partner or former husband or whatever, because he might be killed in battle, or some wildebeest might wander into the tribe and eat him or something, and then, or some neighboring tribe comes in and there's a battle and they take over, and then suddenly she's forced into she's got a new husband because the guy's taken over and he's kind of just taken her. And for that reason, the theory is that evolutionarily women are much better at this than men are, because women had to sort of adapt to that in order to, as you say, to survive. To apply that to they like drama with their partner or a guy that they're actually with, that is an interesting theory. And I hadn't really thought of it like that before, and I'm not quite sure if it works. But it is interesting. Maybe that is something to do with it. I don't know. Because then we're not then talking about her moving on, because she's a war bride, right? Or she is almost like a widow, and has to move on very quickly to the new guy. We're talking about still being with the same guy. So I don't know if it quite works, but it is interesting. There might be something in that. Mary says, women are blasted with attention all the time, whether it be male attention, propaganda from corporations, advertisements, all cater to giving women endless amounts of attention and stimulation. Yeah. We then expect that same... Okay, right. So this is interesting. So Mary says, we then expect that same level of attention and stimulation from all our relationships. That kind of keys into what I was saying before. My suspicion that women regard, and particularly young women, regard the man in their life as being a source of entertainment, a source of drama, in the same way that maybe her Netflix account or her Instagram or what she's seeing on TikTok or these other forms of entertainment. You are just there as the guy. And people will say, oh, dancing monkey, but it's not quite like that. You are just there as the guy, as another entertainment source. And if you're not that entertaining, then she's going to be like, fuck, I'm going to get rid of my subscription to this dude, and I'm going to subscribe to Chad over there instead, because it looks like he's going to make me feel more. I mean, listen, also, guys, look, I mean, I've had women say this to me directly. So I remember, and again, this is years ago, because I had a chode period back in the day, and now I have a super international Playboy period, which is now, and the rest of my life. But I certainly went through a period when I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, and I made a lot of mistakes with girls, and I got into some bad situations. And, I was with this girl for a while, and she ended up kind of dumping me. And when she dumped me, or even before she dumped me, she started to complain about the fact that it was all getting too predictable. She started to sort of say, oh, I know what you're going to say. I know what you're going to do. You'll let me get away with anything. And then they'll say the spark's gone, or it's not as exciting as it used to be, or whatever. But she would literally verbalize. She was literally verbalizing to me the stuff that I'm telling you now. And that happened, and then there was another girl, and I remember her, we didn't date for as long, but I remember her saying something similar to me. This other girl complained because her reason for not wanting to see me anymore was she said, well, I know I know all the clothes you've got in your wardrobe, like I know all the shirts you've got now and stuff. And I'm like, well, what the fuck's that got to do with it? What are you talking about? But of course, what she actually meant was, she'd seen everything she needed to see about me. There was no mystery. All right, there was no mystery at all. And there wasn't any mystery with me at that point as a boyfriend, not only because I didn't have many shirts, but also because, I would meet the girl and I would not fall in love with her, but I would be like, okay, she's hot. I want to continue seeing her. I would be infatuated with her. And so then I would just toe the line of anything. I would never cancel a date. I would always be early for the date. I would always, we probably end up doing kind of similar things every time. These women would get bored with that. They wanted, the first girl that I was talking to you about, she even, and I can't quite remember exactly how she couched it, but she basically told me, look, I want more excitement. I crave, she said, she used to talk also about liking bad boys, She used to like guys who appeared on Crime Watch, which is, for people in the UK who know that show, it's about several of her ex-boyfriends had actually appeared on Crime Watch. You know, she was into these kind of working class lads who were sort of, you know, they're getting up to no good. And she was a very, you know, well brought up middle class girl, by the way. She was like 22 at the time, or no, 21, 22 at the time. And she literally told me that's what she wanted. Now, at the time, because we didn't have an internet then, and I didn't really understand this stuff, and I just thought, well, she's nuts or whatever. But of course, then we get the internet and we start to join the dots, and you realize this is actually, it's not just her. This is actually a common theme amongst females, right? You know, not only did this girl want bad boys, but she also wants somebody, she kind of wanted somebody to treat her like shit. And she basically told me that. Her basic reason for dumping me was, you don't treat me like shit enough. You know, and you're like, and again, you know, it's like, I mean, it's insane. You know, it's insane. But that's how it is, because I wasn't giving her the tingles. I wasn't sparking her desire. I wasn't sparking her excitement anymore. And of course, over time, you learn these lessons, right? You learn actually, well, okay, I need to be a bit more mysterious then. I need to, and people talk about being the bad boy. I'm not talking about being an arsehole. I'm not talking about treating people badly, but you need to be a bit more challenging. You need to be more commanding. You need to just fucking, you know, you need to say no to her. You need to disagree with her. You need to tease her. And you need to be not so available, okay? And this is the thing that Rollo always talks about. You need to be your own mental point of origin. This is why all these red pill dudes bang on all the time about why you need to put your mission first, okay, over and above the girl, right? You need to put your mission first, because if you're super focused on your mission, it's like, no, I'm doing this. I'm going to make $1 billion. I'm going to build this company. I'm going to do this. You're super focused on that. You don't really give a fuck about the girl. It's like, yeah, it's great. We can sleep together sometimes. You can come over, whatever. I'll ring you at 11 p.m. and get you over, or 12 a.m. or whatever, and you can, you know, I'll get you an Uber over here, whatever. But you're not really putting that much into it. Then that is more, ironically, then she's going to be more likely to hang around, okay? If you're showering her with this attention and she always knows where she's at and there's never any tension, there's never any sort of, you know, and she can read you like an open book, then she gets bored, she loses interest, and that's when she goes and fucks Chad, you know? And that's it.